30, we have a little bit, some more me verbs here with histe me, but then just a hodgepodge of random things that you need to know. So finishing me verbs, you've kind of learned all of the most important things, and so the remaining chapters are, things that you need to know uh, when you're reading Greek, but they're not as important. They just kind of these last chapters are feel very pieced together. So if you're trying to figure out the logic of these chapters, it's less now. It's just kind of tying together some loose ends. Okay, so histemi here, you can see the forms here. So like histemi is the present, the future, steso. So this iota is the reduplication, the present, the me verb reduplication here, which that just drops out in your other forms, which we're used to with me verbs. But so the sigma is being reduplicated with the iota there. And then notice here in the aorist there's two forms. It can either be a first aorist with a sa, and it has a second aorist form. So there's going to be, and it's not using ka in its aorist. Noticing that. So our other ditto me and tithe me, the other me verbs that we learned used ka in its aorist, where histe me does not. So noting that. And then Croy points out that histe me can be a bit complicated because it can mean, where is it talking about it here? The transitive meaning is cause to stand, and the intransitive meaning is stand firm up here. So transitive meaning that it has a direct object. The verb has a direct object with it, where intransitive means it doesn't. And so when you come across histemi, I think just start with the word stand. We can do this in English. So I can talk about like, I stand here in the room. That's intransitive. I stand. I stand. Okay? Histemi can be used in that way. But then it can also be used in a transitive. If I was to say like, I stood the pillar or something like that. You can cause something to stand, but we still use the word stand in English sometimes for that. So if you just translate it as stand, whether transitive or intransitive, and then think through the sense of it, I think that should help make sense of how to translate it. So if we just go to, here's the forms. You can get out your 5 rules and look through these forms and how they are formed there. But okay, looking at these examples that it gives, so I stood the child on the stone or on the rock, and so they translate it as I set the child on a rock, which is more idiomatic English. But if I said I stood the child on a rock, you would know what I'm talking about. So here, the Lord stood the day, or made the day stand. And you can kind of see how that would be the Lord establishes the day. Here, we are able to stand the law. Are we able to stand the law? To make the law stand or to establish it? So hopefully you can see how, if you just use stand, you can see how that you can be used to get these different translations. You saw me standing, that's the normal intransitive use. Will the evil kingdom stand? The woman stood in the field. you are standing on playground. So they just translated all that as stand. So that's easy. Intransitive is easy in terms of translation. It's more the transitive one where you kind of have to do a secondary thought of how to translate it into English. Okay, 218. So now we're getting into some just irregular things. So there's this word famille. You'll normally just see facing, which means he says or she says. And that's about it. It just means he says or she says. It's used in quotes. It's used more in classical Greek. It's not used as commonly in the New Testament, but it is used occasionally. Okay, then it gives you the forms of bino, which bino is not used that by itself. It's not used in the New Testament, but you'll see words like anabino and katabino a lot in the New Testament. So all these forms are the same. They all have this bino stem. So it gives you the forms there for the second aorist. In the aorist, it uses the me endings. Okay, so you can look through those forms. And then it's also giving you gnosko forms. You can look at those. Then it gives numbers. So we looked at 1 earlier. Notice here it says 2 is not declined, and neither are numbers from 5 to 199. Those are not declined either. And what that means is that there's only one word for them. So 2 is duo. And no matter if it's nominative or genitive or dative or accusative, it doesn't decline. It's just duo. And so you can only tell by context what the form is. And that's the same for numbers 5 to 199. There's only one word and it never changes. Where we saw with the number 1 that it has a masculine, feminine, neuter form, and then it has nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. And so you can see here, 3 and 4 are declined. And so it gives you the forms of those here. And so it will be nominative if it's the subject. It'll be genitive if it's, of 3, dative to, with, in, or by 3, accusative if it's the direct object. So the cases are used just normally, as you'd expect. Okay, and then the last thing here that they point out is that sometimes before min and de, you'll just have an article, kind of like this. But there's no noun attached to it. And so normally this is marking a change in subject. So the teacher dismissed the disciples or the students, and they departed into the city. And so there's a change in subject from the teacher, and then this is moving to the students here. So that's just a common thing that you'll see. So that brings you to the end. So hopefully you can keep all these little things in your mind as you're doing your exercises in translation. But, okay.